Welcome back to a new deep dive, and in this one we need to take a look at the Bus Exciter 104. This plugin was modeled after the C2 Apex Oral Exciter. So yeah, it's an emulation of a hardware unit. Still, you get a lot of things that you don't get on the original one. As the name implies, this is an exciter. You will use it to add a spark, shine, or just excitement to the mixes. You can use it on your instruments, you can use it on your bus, your vocals, you name it. Let's talk about the controls and then hear what it can do. You have two sides. You have the big bass, of course, is for the lower frequencies, and then you have the exciter just for the higher frequencies. Right here at the top go all presets, and you have the default patch. I'm going to be using this one a lot. Now the thing is that, and I'm going to play some drums right now. As soon as you turn it on, and this plugin is on, it's going to do something to your track. And that's off. So, you know, it's a lot darker. As soon as I turn it on, it's just brighter. And that's fine. The thing is that the mix control for both sides is something that you need to adjust. And the harmonic section, which is the thing that we are hearing the most, is on one. One is the lowest. Even if you're all the way down on harmonics, it's just doing something. So if you want to keep it on, but maybe do nothing with the plugin and let the sound pass, you need to go to mix all the way down on both sections. The big bass section will take the lower frequencies, and the line you see right here is a filter. It's going to filter everything, and whatever is below or just close to this filter is what the big bass will process. You can drag the line to select a frequency, or you can use the knob to select a frequency. The drive is a little bit different from the harmonics. This one will generate harmonics. We're going to talk about this in a minute. But the drive, what it does is going to drive the input that goes into the unit. And of course, it's only the bass frequencies. So when you drive more, it's going to compress more and more. Let me play the drums again. The mix is going to make all the difference in the world. The mix of the exciter is all the way down. So I'm going to drive it. And you're going to notice that when you are processing something, you can see the strength right here. If I drive it more and turn it off, there's no difference, right? It's because you need to use your mix control. If I go up, now we can hear the boom at the back. Like I said before, you can just select your frequency, and at the top, you have a lot more control. Let's say I want to turn off the exciter, you can, and you can solo what you're processing. So this is the wet signal only for the big bass. Maybe I want to boost this, or maybe I just, want to get that boom. Of course, this is a little bit too much. But that's fine. Now you can boost or drive, in this case, whatever it is that you select, and then right here you have a resonance. Since this is a filter, pretty much just chopping and selecting the lower frequencies, you can boost the resonance of the filter. And of course, you will target a very specific, frequency. It's just gonna sound super aggressive. Now I'm going all the way up, so maybe it's just a little bit too much. This is something that that you can do, especially when you unsolo this. And maybe again this is too much. Well, you go down in the mix, and the mix controls. This one, the big bass and the exciter and the wet mix are really important, because you can go all the way in and then just decide how much you want. If I turn it off, you can hear the low end. And make sure that you're watching this on headphones or maybe good speakers. All right. I will go to a default patch again, and I want to show you, before we talk about the different or the tiny little functions that you get, I want to show you the exciter. Just like the big bass, we need to use the frequency or the slider to select the range, the higher frequencies that we want to process. You can also turn it off, and you can also, solo whatever it is that you are selecting. So everything above the line, this filter, will get processed. Even if the harmonics are all the way down and the mix is less than 50%, it just changes everything. And I'm gonna disable the big bass for now. I'm just gonna turn it off. Super different, right? Yeah. So, just like I said before, the harmonics will add harmonics to your signal, to your high frequencies, whatever it is that you're processing right here. And the mix is super important. If I go up, it's gonna get super bright. Maybe too bright, right? So the mix is super important. So, that's it pretty much. This is, what you can do with this plugin. These are the main controls. Then you have a lot of extras like the slope and the stereo or saturation on the big bass section. And then you have a very useful equalizer. Everything that we do on this plugin will be shown on the spectrum, which is super useful. On the default patch, we can see that the signal that is going out, it's a little bit louder, the higher frequencies, than the input signal, the dry signal. So when you boost or you do something, you can really hear and see the difference. So the spectrum is super useful. And this is why also you have an output equalizer. If you're going really aggressively, you can match with the EQ. You can match it down, just drag it down, and you can match the input signal. If I turn it off, it will still sound excited, but less loud, of course. If I do the same thing with the big bass and I bring more, it's just too much, right? So I can just, bring it down. Now the main point right here is that you get one for the low and one for the highs. So maybe you want a little bit more boost right here, so you can just, bring it up a little bit more. This is why you get the EQ, which is, again, super useful. Now, since the mix is super important right here, you might want to crank it up and use the wet-dry mix. How different it is, the dry signal is. You also have an output level. If you're boosting too much, maybe you want to dial it down, but this will of course go down on the output for both bands, for the big bass and the exciter. You can also hear the wet only signal, which is whatever is that we are processing on the big bass and the exciter. And also, you can bypass right here and just turn it off just to compare the dry and the wet. I'm going to go back to default, and now we need to discuss the not so simple parts. You have the saturation, the mono, the slope, and the stereo. So on the big bass, when you drive the input, you compress, right? So you drive this and you compress whatever it is that you have right here, but you never push it to smash or just to get distortion from this band. So this is the saturation option. I'm going to play it back, and I'm going all the way in, and if I solo this, it's kind of saturated, but it's not wild. So if I go up on the saturation, it will just get to distortion. So what we are doing is we are scaling the drive, and we are inputting more, so we can get, again, a distorted sound or just overdriven type of sound. If I remove the solo, maybe down in the mix, and it will still, make a difference. Now, then you have the mono with 3 different options. I'm gonna go saturation all the way down, and I'm gonna solo the big bass, and I'm gonna play the drums. So now I'm just listening to the lower frequencies on the big bass. So if you take a listen and you need to use good headphones or just good speakers, the sound is stereo. So it's because, of course, I'm using a drum kit, stereo drum kit. So whatever that goes into this plugin will get processed on the left, on the right, and the stereo will go out. So the signal that we process is stereo, simple as that. And this is this option, mono off. Whatever goes in, goes out. But then we have the big bass, and if I go to big bass, you can notice the difference. This is what happens. So the big bass, what it does, takes your signal and it will sum it to mono, and then it's going to process that. That's why we're listening and it's super mono. It takes the signal, it will just make it mono, and then process the big bass. That's it. That's what it is. So if this is the other one is stereo and this one is mono, what the F is all bass? So first I'm going to go to default, and I'm going to go to that big bass first. And I'm going to just play it back. Just the solo, just the bass. And I'm going to maybe put the flutter right here. So if I go to the all bass, the main difference, it's just not so obvious, right? And I'm going to drive it more so we can get a little bit more. So what the all bass does, and it's a little bit different, it will take or just filter the side information and sum it to mono. The other one is just summing into mono, and that's the main difference. So you're kind of cleaning what's on the sides so you can work on the center information as much as possible. That's the difference, just to make it, to process whatever it is that you're trying to process and get a more tight result. This again depends on what you want to process or get. Alright, so that's what the mono option is. Then on the other side, you get this slope and you get the stereo. And this is kind of a similar to what we get on the big bass, but also a little bit different. The unit, and I'm talking about the original unit, to generate the harmonics, it goes to a rectifier stage. If you don't know what the rectifier stage will do, it's a kind of a way of distortion. It takes the signal, it goes through a stage, and then you get the distorted sound. On the original unit, the rectifier was half wave, which is enough just to make it sound like it sounds, right? So we still get a very, I want to say distorted, but you get a lot of harmonics out of this. It sounds very noisy. That's fine. This is the half wave. And it's less aggressive than a full wave. So this is what this slope is. You cannot go down because it's already half wave. If I play it back and go up, what we are doing, we are going towards the full wave. And as it sounds super crushed now. Maybe if I go up, it's obvious. More musical, less noisy. So full wave is just a lot more aggressive. Half, full. Now, on full wave, whatever is chopped off, because that's what a rectifier does, it's going to fold it to the other side. This is why it's just a lot more aggressive. But in simple words, in conclusion, 100% full, super noisy, just a little bit too much. I'm going to just mix it or blend it with the original signal and bypass. If we go to full, to half wave, it's a little bit less, right? Just more transparent, let's say. So, So half wave, more musical, and full wave is just more aggressive, more harmonics. Then you have the stereo, and this one is just pretty simple. If you go down, you make it mono. Whatever goes into the plugin and gets processed is going to be mono. If you go up, it's going to be more stereo, and 100% it's full stereo. If you go over, you're just making it wider. And again, all of this is just completely up to you. Maybe you want to make it wider, you can. By unsolo, and we can hear the difference. Mono, stereo, super wide. All right, so that's it. This is what we can do with this plugin. These are all the controls. Now at the bottom, you have one more option, and you have two options, which is the oversampling. Studio is whenever you're working on your DAW, you're mixing, you're producing, keep it on studio. And render, it means that when you are just maybe bouncing or getting your mix down, well, in that case, you go to render, and it's just gonna work a little bit better. Okay, so I have a tiny little track right here, super dry and unmixed track. And I want to drop an instance of the plugin on the drums, on the bass, and on the instruments, which are, all the instruments. I want to see if, I could just get a little bit more from the track. First, I'm gonna go to the drums. I'll go here. As soon as I turn it on, it is making the difference. Maybe I want a little bit more of the highs. So, more mix. Too bright, right? So maybe just bring it down. I'll get a little bit more boom. Too much, right? It's gonna go down. I'm just, fooling around right now. Just to see if I and get something else. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the bass and just gonna solo for now. If I turn it off, it's already doing something. So maybe I'm gonna go to the lower frequencies. I'm gonna go up. And remember, we can use the resonance. Maybe that's gonna be, it's gonna sound nice. If I go here, I get a lot of rumble, which is, what I get from the default sound. Too bassy, but that's fine. Maybe I wanted to boost this part a little bit more instead of the super low frequencies. Right, I'm just gonna keep it. Now I'm gonna go to the instruments. And right here is just, as soon as I just use the default preset, it's just making it a lot better. Okay, so I'm gonna just do maybe a little bit less. Maybe more here, and see what happens. I'm gonna go down level just a tiny little bit. Okay, I guess that's fine. I'm gonna close it, and what I want to do, I want to select all the tracks, and I'm gonna just, play it back. And I'm gonna first just turn off. I'm gonna turn off the all the plugins, all the instances, and I'm gonna play it back and then turn on and off and see if it does something, right? I kind of really like it. Maybe the bass not so much because I'm removing a lot of the low frequency information, but it's just making the mix a little bit more tight. And you know what? We can also go here to the exciter and use the big bass option. And maybe we're gonna do a little bit less of resonance. Let's try again. Just gonna close it. Select all the tracks. I'm gonna stop it and I'm gonna play it back with everything off. Yeah. Alright, so let me give you my review, and this is just an opinion. No one's paying me to do this. I, paid for the plugin myself, so it's just my opinion, right? If you want to take a track, for example, in this case, the instrument track, and just get a little bit more, well, this works perfectly. Just works. And on top of that, you get the visual representation, which is always good, especially if you're learning. And so it's super useful. So if you want to get that, you will get it. And again, this is a holy grail. It's based on a holy grail unit. And you have a few emulations of that unit. You have the waves emulation of the same units. And I think that was that one was is the one that we've been using for a long time. I guess it's kind of old at this point. And I think this one is just a lot better. Sounds better, it works better, and you have a lot of extra functions. So I think it's if you want an exciter, that emulation of that exciter, this one is just, again, no-brainer. And like I said on different videos, when you buy an ARTURIA plugin, maybe you just don't want to buy it alone. Maybe you want to buy the bundle, and you get a lot of compressors, you get a lot of things. And if that's the case, if you get it within a bundle, well, this one is just a fantastic purchase. If you buy alone, well, it's just a little bit expensive. Maybe you need to wait for sale or just wait for Black Friday, let's say. All right, so that's it. If you liked all of this, please like and subscribe. This channel is supported by you, by viewers only. No one is just exchanging money right here. No one is giving me plugins. No one is giving me anything. So if you want to buy me a coffee just to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon.